And what up, everybody? Welcome back to Feral Publications YouTube channel. The channel talk about zines and DIY publishing. And today I want to flip through Frank Miller's Hell and Back, a Sin City love story. So, as most of you guys probably know, I am a Frank Miller fan. I am excited for the Frank Miller Presents comic line. I already have them getting shipped out to me. But the Sin City collection that I have is something that I look back through pretty often. And there's just so much that Frank Miller does that it's hella good, but some of it is also very surprising, right? Like when you look at this thing, like when I look at that, I'm like, what is it? Like I don't fully get it, but it works for the composition and everything. That's just one of those things that he's confident in when he's doing what he's doing. And this is some of the stuff you guys are probably seeing me now really try and dabble into, like more wordless comics. Or like just wordless sequences. Because this comic is not wordless, but like this sets a mood, man. That's one of the things that I always get taken aback by Sin City and the way it's done. Is that there's always a mood. Like it's such a moody comic book, and it's always such a moody storytelling way. If you didn't notice this panel here, you probably wouldn't understand that they were underwater. The sea waves. They're on the rocks. And the way he uses the silhouettes for the crime noir, like these stories in the end of the day are like a detective story. So you're trying to get to the bottom of it. There's going to be twists and turns and so on and so forth. But using the silhouettes so that they're not clearly, identified, it's always a good stroke. Just a wordless sequence. You know what I mean? 2 pages wordless. Now on your feet, he's waking up like, what the hell? Love this. I've tried doing this panel many times, and I've failed many times. That's hella hard. Always like the way he does the lips like that too. Smart. Just hella smart. If you've never read Sin City comic, you guys need to. This is the last one, I think. Well, at least it was the last one up until now. And Frank Miller has a really good way of writing, man. I mean, even the RoboCop stuff, I fucking loved it. Look at this page. And that's what I'm talking about. Like he understands pacing, I think, better than most cartoonists. Him and Eastman, I would say, the pacing of it and how to create a mood through the panels and letting it kind of flow and breathe. And his rain. Like I said, I always love the way Frank Miller does rain. And his use of empty space too is hella good. Look at that. Now I'm calm. Calm as a monk or an executioner. But look at this panel right here, man. Sheesh, that's beast mode. Like, let's like peep this out, right? So this is gonna be a wordless sequence, right? Starting from where? Pretty sure this is the beginning of what would have been the floppy, right? 1 page, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is that stuff that, like, I can tell that, because you guys gotta remember that Kevin Eastman and more Eastman than Laird, but Eastman from the Ninja Turtle duo, he always talked about how Frank Miller was a big thing, and I think anyone, you know, that was into comics in the 80s was really influenced by Frank Miller. And then dare I say that Frank Miller really influenced the industry from the late 80s into the early 90s. But like, this feels so Ninja Turtle to me. Like, really utilizing the fight sequences. That's something that before they wouldn't do. Like, the fights were very, like, you know, 1 panel, maybe 2 panels. But it wasn't like that. Like, it didn't feel like an actual fight that was put down in slow motion. You see how, like, it always breathes. There's always this breathing that comes into it. So much of it is showing and not telling. And I wonder how much of it is because he thinks like a screenwriter. You know, because he's written quite a few screenplays. And that's one of those things that I always say, that if you can communicate with your reader and get them to understand what you're trying to communicate to them, then it doesn't have to look the way you think it ought to, right? It doesn't have to look like the way you think you'll see in a movie. Like, this right here, to me, just communicates it all well. His face isn't blown off, there's not brain matter everywhere, but you understand what he's communicating to us. That's one of the things that I will say, because I got some Love and Rocket comics with people out too. But one of the things about my boy Frank Miller, especially during this era, is that he draws them hella stiff, man. These characters, they look like they're all made out of squares. Like hard ass squares. Yeah. Rain. Look at this rain sequence. This is why I've been looking at it. Oh, I love this portion of it. This acid trip in the Frank Miller comic is so good. .300, right? Call back to Frank Miller's .300. Wolf and Cub, Captain America, Rambo. You got a young Clint Eastwood, RoboCop, Dr. Seuss. Shit is wild, man. Hellboy. That's Dark Horse, though. That makes sense. Zorro. I want to say Metropolis, but I'm not sure. He always does this pose like if everyone's just doing flips throughout. Fucking Frank Miller, he thinks everyone's a fucking ninja. But you see, like all that stuff is the stuff that I love. Anytime I reread the Sin City comics, I'm always like, well, that was it, like because the story just feels way more massive than the text does. So that by the time you're done like reading through it, you're like, man, but I understood so much of it, like as this massive story. But it's a quick read because he shows more than tells. And like let's not, you know, let's not state the obvious, but the obvious is and it's fun. Every story that he's done through Sin City has been a fun little story. So there you go, you guys. Frank Miller's Howling Back, a Sin City love story. Quick flip through. Alright, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, I make a comic book zine called Furrow Comics. New issue getting shipped out tomorrow. And if you guys are interested, go ahead and hit the link in the show notes so you guys can get a single issue. If not, get a year subscription. Alright. Lates.